The elevator in my apartment building stops on floors no one presses. What scared me wasn't the elevator. It was how everyone acted like they didn't hear it. I moved into the building in late October. The kind of move where everything still smells like cardboard and dust. And the walls don't feel like yours yet. It was an older apartment complex, concrete hallways, dim lighting, beige paint that had been repainted too many times. Not abandoned, just tired. The elevator was original. Slow, loud, mechanical. In a way modern elevators aren't. You could hear it from anywhere. In the building, that mattered later. The first time it happened. I didn't think anything of it. I was riding down alone. Late evening, maybe around 9:30. I pressed lobby, leaned against the wall, and watched the numbers light up one by one. 7, 6, 5. Then the elevator slowed 4 lit up. The doors opened. No one was there, just an empty hallway. Long, quiet, identical to every other floor. I frowned, confused for half a second, then shrugged. Someone must have pressed the button earlier and gotten off using the stairs. Old building. Old system, the doors closed. The elevator continued down. I forgot about it before I even reached the lobby. The second time happened 2 days later. This time, I was coming home with groceries. A woman from the 3rd floor stepped in with me. She pressed 3. I pressed 7. The ride was normal until we passed the 5th floor. The elevator slowed again. The light for 6 turned on. The doors opened. Empty hallway. Same beige walls. Same carpet. Same silence. The woman beside me stiffened. Not dramatically, just enough for me to notice. The doors stayed open longer than usual. Then they closed. Neither of us said anything. She got off on the 3rd floor. I continued up. That's when I realized something strange. She hadn't looked confused. She hadn't looked curious. She'd looked annoyed. After that, I started paying attention. Once you notice a pattern, it's impossible to stop seeing it. The elevator stopped on floors no one pressed at least once a day, sometimes twice, always. Briefly. Always to empty hallways. What made it unsettling wasn't the malfunction, it was the reaction, or rather, the lack of one. People didn't question. It didn't look at the panel, didn't make jokes, didn't roll their eyes. They stood quietly, eyes forward, waiting for the doors to close, like it was an inconvenience everyone had agreed not to discuss. One night, I tested it. I rode down with a man I'd seen around before, mid-40s, business casual. Polite nod in the hallway type. The elevator slowed between floors, stopped, doors opened to nothing. Does this happen a lot? I asked casually, not accusing, not nervous, just curious. He didn't answer at first. I thought he hadn't heard me. Then I noticed his jaw tighten. His eyes stayed fixed on the closing doors. After a moment, he said quietly, "It's better if you don't pay attention." That was it. No explanation, no follow-up. After that, people stopped making eye contact with me in the elevator. Not overtly, just subtly, like I'd broken an unspoken rule. I asked the building manager about it the next week. He smiled too. Quickly, elevator systems are old, he said. Sensors misfire. Nothing unusual. When I asked why, it always stopped on the same floors. His smile thinned. People exaggerate patterns, he replied. That night, I rode the elevator alone again. Late, the building was quiet. As the elevator descended, I heard something new. Not a sound from inside the cab, Outside, footsteps, soft, measured, walking, past the elevator doors while it was stopped. Between floors, the light for 8 turned on. I hadn't pressed it. No one lived on the 8th floor. The elevator slowed, stopped. The doors opened. The hallway lights flickered on dot empty, but warmer than the others, like it had just been occupied as the doors closed. I noticed something carved into the metal frame, scratched in small, careful letters. Don't acknowledge it. The elevator continued down later that night, lying in bed. I heard the elevator moving again, slowly, stopping, opening, closing, over and over. And no matter how long it ran, no one ever seemed to get on. After I found the message carved into the elevator frame, I tried to convince myself it was a joke, a prank from a previous tenant, something left behind by someone bored or bitter. But jokes don't explain patterns, and they don't explain silence. The next few days, I stopped riding the elevator alone. I waited in the lobby until someone else showed up. A couple from the 5th floor, a woman with a stroller. Anyone. When other people were inside, the elevator behaved perfectly. No random stops, no flickering lights, no delays. That detail mattered more than anything else, because it meant the elevator wasn't broken, it was selective. One night, I got home later than usual, close to midnight. The lobby was empty. I stood there for a long time, staring at the elevator doors, listening to the building breathe. Around me, I considered taking the stairs. 7 floors isn't impossible, but something about that felt like giving in, like admitting the rule had power. I stepped inside alone, pressed 7. The doors closed. The elevator moved upwards slowly, groaning with each floor. 2, 3, 4. At 5, it slowed. I felt my stomach tighten. The light for 6 turned on. I hadn't pressed it. The doors opened. The hallway was darker than usual. The lights took longer to come on, and when they did, they flickered weakly, like they were reluctant. I stepped forward just enough to look out. No furniture, no decorations, no doors open, but the carpet was worn, not dusty. Worn. As if people still walked there. The doors stayed open longer than they ever had before. I cleared my throat. I know, I said quietly, feeling ridiculous. I'm not supposed to acknowledge it. The elevator shuddered, not violently, just enough to let me know it had heard me. The doors closed. The light for 7 turned back on. I didn't sleep much after that. I started noticing other things, small things, packages left in the lobby. Overnight were always gone by morning, even when no one signed for them. Security cameras near the elevator were always under maintenance. Notices appeared in the stairwell without dates or signatures. I finally decided to do what everyone else clearly refused to. I asked about the empty floors. The building was supposed to have 8 floors, but according to city records, only 6 were occupied. The 7th floor, my floor, had been partially vacated years ago. The 8th floor wasn't listed at all. I found an old tenant online, someone who'd lived in the building 10 years ago. I sent them a message. They responded an hour later. Does the elevator still stop by itself? I asked them what happened. They didn't answer right away. When they did, the reply was short. People complained about the sounds, about the stops, about doors opening to empty floors. Then the building told us to stop talking about it. I asked why. Because the more attention it got, they wrote, the more often it happened. They told me about the fire. Not a big one, an electrical fire. Years ago, late at night, it damaged the upper floors, trapped several residents. Some made it out, some didn't. Afterward, the building sealed off the worst damaged areas, reassigned apartments, renumbered floors, removed buttons from the elevator panel, but they never fixed the elevator. They said it was easier, the former tenant wrote, to let it finish its route. That night, the elevator ran constantly down, stopping, opening, closing. I heard footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment, slow, unhurried, like someone pacing at 3:12 a.m. The elevator stopped on my floor. I hadn't called it. No one else lived there anymore. The doors opened. I could see the light spilling into the hallway from the gap beneath my apartment door. Then I heard voices, not shouting, not screaming, just people talking quietly, like neighbors, waiting to get off. I stayed very still, didn't breathe, didn't move. After a long time, the elevator doors closed. The elevator continued downward. The next morning, a notice was posted in the lobby. Reminder: please do not interfere with building systems. Elevator use is optional. Stairwells are encouraged. Moved out 2 weeks later. No one asked why. No one said goodbye before I left. I rode the elevator one last time, alone. As the doors closed, the panel lit up on its own. 6, 7, 8. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. This time, the hallway wasn't empty. People stood there quietly, facing the elevator, waiting. No one looked surprised to see me. As the doors began to close, someone at the back met my eyes and smiled gently, not threatening, not angry, relieved, like I was finally following the rules. There is no button for the 4th floor in my building. That's the first thing everyone notices. What no one talks about is the fact that the elevator still goes. There, I didn't realize the floor was missing until a friend pointed it out. We were riding up together, talking about nothing important, when she stopped mid-sentence and frowned at the panel. Did you ever notice there's no 4? She asked. I looked. She laughed nervously. That's weird, right? I shrugged. Old building. Superstitions. Some places skip 4, like others skip 13. But later that night, riding alone, I noticed something else. The elevator slowed between floors. Not stopped. Slowed. The lights dimmed slightly. The number panel went dark. For a moment, there was no indication of where I was. Then the doors opened. I wasn't on any floor I recognized. The hallway was narrower than the others. The ceiling lower. The lights older yellow instead of white, buzzing softly like they hadn't been replaced in decades. The carpet was a different color too, dark green, threadbare. There were doors on both sides, real doors, with numbers. I stared, confused, my mind scrambling for an explanation. Maintenance level, maybe a storage floor, some forgotten section of the building. The doors closed before I could step out. The elevator lurched. The panel lit back up. 5. I rode the rest of the way in silence, heart pounding harder than it should have. When I reached my apartment, I checked the floor map posted near the stairs. No 4th floor the next few days. I paid closer attention. The elevator never stopped there when other people were inside. Only when I was alone. Only briefly. One afternoon, I decided to ask someone who'd lived there longer than I. Had an older woman on the 6th floor. Quiet, polite, always smelled faintly of cleaning solution. How long have you lived here? I asked as we waited for the elevator. Long enough, she replied. Was there ever a fourth floor? I asked. She froze. Not dramatically, just stopped moving. The elevator arrived with a ding dot. The doors opened. She stepped inside without answering. The ride was silent. The elevator passed the third floor. Didn't slow, didn't hesitate. When we reached 6, she got off quickly. As she walked away, she said, without turning round, those buttons were removed for a reason. That night, I searched public records. Old building permits, fire inspection reports, archived rental listings. The building had originally been designed with 8 floors, then 7, then 6. The 4th floor was removed from all documents after a structural incident. No photos, no details, just a note, area decommissioned, access restricted. That didn't explain the doors, or the numbers, or the fact that the elevator still remembered the stop. 2 nights later, I rode the elevator again. Alone, I pressed 6. The doors closed. The lights dimmed. The panel went dark. The elevator slowed. The doors opened. This time, someone was standing in the hallway. A man, maybe dressed casually, holding a grocery bag like he'd just come home. He looked as surprised to see me as I was to see him. Oh, he said, they let you see this floor now. Before I could answer, the doors began to close. I heard him call out, don't worry, you're not supposed to stay long. The doors shut. The elevator jolted upward. 5 lit up. My hands were shaking when I reached my apartment. I barely slept. The next morning, there was a new notice posted in the lobby. Reminder to all residents, please use designated floors only. Do not attempt to access. Removed levels. There was no signature, no date. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard the elevator moving, slowing, stopping, opening, and then something new. Voices, not loud, not panicked, just people talking quietly, like neighbors waiting for their doors to open, from a floor that officially does not exist. Asterisk. After the notice appeared in the lobby, people stopped making eye contact with me. Not completely, just enough to make it clear something had changed. Conversations in the elevator ended when I stepped in. Doors closed a little faster. People watched the number panel instead of each other. I started hearing the elevator at night, not arriving, not leaving, just pausing long enough for the lights to flicker. Long enough for the building to feel occupied in a way it hadn't before. I couldn't stop thinking about the man with the grocery bag. He'd looked normal, not confused, not frightened, like someone who still lived there. I searched deeper into city archives, older than the digital records, scanned microfilm, old newspapers. That's where I found it. A short article from 23 years ago, no headline photos, no follow-up, just a column tucked near the bottom of the page. Apartment. Fire contained 4th floor, CAL. Article described an electrical fire that started late at night. Smoke, damage, sprinkler, failure, structural concerns. Residents were evacuated. Some relocated permanently. Some were temporarily housed. The building reopened 6 months later with fewer floors. What the article didn't say mattered more. There was no mention of fatalities, no memorial, no lawsuit. I asked the building manager directly the next day. I brought copies of the article, put them on his desk. Why does the elevator still stop there? I asked. He didn't look at the papers, didn't look at me, just sighed. Because people don't like being told they don't exist, he said quietly. That night, the elevator stopped on its own again. I was in the lobby. I hadn't pressed any button. The doors opened. Fourth floor. The hallway lights were brighter this time, warmer. The air smelled faintly of cooking. I could hear a TV playing somewhere down the hall. I stepped out. The elevator doors didn't close. They waited. The hallway was lived in shoes by doors, plants on windowsills, welcome mats, worn thin, name were mounted beside each door. Most were scratched out, some still readable. At the end of the hall, the man from before stood near an open apartment. He smiled when he saw me. They usually don't let people come back, he said. Guess you noticed too much. What is this place? I asked. He thought for a moment. Continuity, he said. The building couldn't close us without admitting something went wrong. Are you dead? I asked. He shook his head. No, he said. We just never left. A door opened nearby. A woman stepped out, holding a laundry basket. She nodded to me politely, like I belonged there. They told us it was temporary, the man continued, that we'd be reassigned once everything was safe. I heard footsteps behind me, more doors opening, people emerging. Curious.com. The elevator dinged softly. A reminder, you should go, he said gently. Before they decide you're easier to keep than explain. I stepped back into the elevator. The doors closed immediately. The panel lit up. 5 the next morning. The notice in the lobby was gone. So was the floor map. 2 weeks later, the 4th floor button appeared on the panel. No announcement, no explanation. People started using it again, like it had always been there. Moved out shortly after. Different building, different neighborhood, same city, sometimes late at night. I still hear elevators stopping between floors, doors opening, people talking quietly, and I understand, now buildings don't forget the people inside them, they just learn how to hide them. I didn't notice the rule at first. That's how most rules like this work. They're not written down. They're not announced. They're just followed. I'd lived in the building for almost a year before I realized something was wrong. It was a quiet place. Mostly professionals. Nurses, security guards, night shift workers. People who came and went at odd hours. The elevator ran 24 hours a day at least. Officially, the first time I noticed the pattern was by accident. I got home late, just after midnight, arms full of takeout containers and mail. I pressed the elevator call button in the lobby and waited. Nothing happened, no ding, no movement, no sound from the shaft. I waited longer than usual then. I heard footsteps behind me. An older man from the 5th floor stepped into the lobby, nodded politely, and walked straight past the elevator. Toward the stairwell. You going up? I asked, gesturing to the elevator. He hesitated, just a fraction of a second. Then he smiled. Stairs are good for the heart, he said, and disappeared into the stairwell. The elevator arrived. Seconds later, I didn't think much of it. Not until it happened. Again and again. Every night after midnight. People avoided the elevator. Not dramatically, not obviously. They just didn't use it. I watched a woman with a stroller struggle up the stairs at 12:30 a.m. Watched a man with a cane choose the stairwell without hesitation. Watched delivery drivers refuse to enter the building at night unless someone else rode up with them. During the day, everything was normal. The elevator was busy, loud, full of small talk and annoyed sighs. At night, silent. I asked my neighbor about it one evening. A guy around my age, friendly, lived directly across the hall. Hey, I said casually. Does the elevator shut down after midnight or something? He looked at me, then at the elevator, then back at me. It works, he said carefully. Then why doesn't anyone use it? I asked. He shrugged. Too quickly. Probably just habit. That night, I got home at 12:07 a.m. The lobby was empty, the elevator doors were closed, waiting. I pressed the button. The light came on immediately. The elevator arrived with a soft ding. I stepped inside, pressed my floor. The doors closed. The elevator started. Up, slowly, quietly, at the second floor. It hesitated. Not a stop, just a pause, like it was thinking. The lights dimmed slightly. I felt pressure in my ears, like descending instead of ascending. Then the elevator continued upward. Normal speed, normal sound. When I got off, my neighbor's door across the hall was open. He stood inside, watching the hallway. You used it, he said. Not accusing, not surprised, just stating a fact. Yeah, I replied. Why wouldn't I? He swallowed, lowered his voice. It doesn't like being reminded, he said. Reminded of what? I asked. He shook his head. That someone's still here. Before I could ask anything else, his door closed, quietly, carefully, that night. I lay in bed, listening. Not for footsteps, not for voices, for the elevator. At 12:32 a.m., I heard it move, slow, unhurried, stopping, opening, closing, opening, closing, over and over. And for the first time since I'd moved in, I realized something chilling. The elevator was busiest when no one was riding it. Asterisk after that night. I stopped getting home late on purpose. Not consciously. Not as a decision. I just started adjusting my schedule without realizing it. Leaving work earlier. Staying out later. Waiting in my car until the clock rolled past 1. Anything. To avoid being alone with the elevator after midnight. The building felt different at night now. Not quieter, more attentive. I started hearing the elevator in places it shouldn't have been audible. In my bathroom. In the kitchen. Through the walls while I lay in bed. Always moving, always stopping, always opening. One night, I ran into the woman with the stroller again. It was 11:58 p.m. She was waiting in the lobby, clearly tired, rocking the stroller gently back and forth. I glanced at the clock. 2 minutes. Do you want to take the elevator? I asked. She smiled, relieved. Double quotes. Yes, please. The elevator arrived. We stepped inside together. The doors closed. The ride was smooth, normal, at her floor. The doors opened. She got out, thanked me quietly, and disappeared down the hallway. Doors closed. The elevator continued upward. That's when I realized something the number panel didn't change. It stayed on to. The elevator moved. Anyway, slow, heavy. The lights dimmed. The air grew warm. At 12:01 a.m., the elevator stopped. The doors opened. I wasn't on any floor I recognized. The hallway was unfinished. Concrete walls, exposed wiring, lights that buzzed too loudly at the end of the hall. Someone was standing, a woman, holding a stroller. She looked exactly like the one I'd just ridden with. Same coat, same tired expression, same smile. You shouldn't use it after midnight, she said. Gently my throat tightened. She shook her head. It remembers who ignores the rule. The elevator dinged behind me. A reminder. They told us it was temporary, she continued. That the elevator would be shut down while repairs were made. I noticed other shapes now. People sitting along the hallway walls, standing near doors that didn't open, waiting. It still runs, she said, so we still ride. I stepped backward into the elevator. The doors closed immediately. The panel lit up. The elevator rose, faster now, too fast. When the doors opened, I was back on my floor. Everything looked normal, finished, safe. My neighbor's door, across the hall, was open again. He was standing there, pale. You crossed the line, he said. I didn't know, I whispered. No one does the first time, he replied. That's why the rule exists. The next morning, a notice appeared in the lobby. Elevator maintenance. Hours. 12 o'clock au. Emi. 4 autos. Emi and stairs. Recommended. Explanation. No apology. I started using the stairs after midnight. So did everyone else, without complaint, without discussion. Sometimes, as I climb, I hear the elevator moving behind the walls, stopping, opening, and I know who it's picking up. Because some nights, the elevator pauses on my floor anyway, even when I don't call it, and I don't use it, because I understand. Now the rule doesn't exist to protect us. It exists to protect the building from remembering who's still here. The elevator in my building works perfectly. That's what everyone says. And they're right, as long as you're not alone. I didn't realize that detail mattered until I started paying attention to when things went wrong. During the day, the elevator was flawless. Busy, loud, impatient. People packed in, shoulder to shoulder, complaining about stops, checking their phones, stepping in and out without thinking. Nothing unusual, nothing wrong. The problems only started when I was by myself. The first time, I brushed it off as coincidence. I got home late, just after 10. The lobby was empty, quiet except for the hum of the vending machine in the corner. I pressed the call button, waited, and stepped inside alone. I pressed 9. The doors closed. The elevator started up at the 4th floor. It slowed, not stopped. Slowed, just enough to make my stomach tighten. The light for 5 turned on by itself. The doors opened. Empty hallway, lights on, no sound. I frowned, leaned out slightly, and looked both ways. Nothing. The doors closed. The elevator continued upward like nothing had happened. I told myself it was a sensor glitch. Old building, old wiring, that it happens. 2 nights later, it happened again. Same situation, same emptiness, same stop, same floor. This time, I noticed something new. The doors stayed open longer than necessary. Not stuck, waiting. I shifted my weight uncomfortably. I didn't press 5. I said aloud, immediately feeling stupid. The elevator hummed. The doors closed. I started testing it after that. Not intentionally at first, just observing when I rode with other people. It never happened, not once. No unexplained stops, no delays, no flickering lights. But when I rode alone, the elevator developed a personality. It favored the same floors, 5, 7, sometimes 8 a floor no one officially lived on anymore. One evening, I rode down with a couple from the 6th floor, normal ride. No issues. They got off in the lobby. The doors closed. The elevator didn't move. The lights dimmed slightly. The panel went blank. Then the light for 7 turned on. The doors opened. The hallway was darker than usual, not unlit, just dim enough. That detail softened at the edges. I didn't step out. I didn't speak. I just stood there, heart pounding, waiting for the doors to close. After a few seconds, they did that. The panel lit back up. Lobby. I started asking around, casually, carefully, double quotes. Does the elevator ever act weird for you? I asked a woman from the 3rd floor one morning. She smiled politely. Nope. I asked a guy from the gym downstairs. Never had a problem, he said. One night, I asked my neighbor across the hall. He stared at me longer than necessary. Only when you're alone. He asked quietly. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He exhaled slowly. That means it noticed you. Noticed me how? I asked. He shook his head. Don't ride it alone anymore. That night, I ignored his advice. I wanted to understand. I waited until the lobby was empty, stepped inside. Didn't press a button. The doors closed on their own. The panel lit up. 7. The elevator began to rise, slow, smooth, intentional. Halfway up, the intercom crackled, not loud, not distorted, just clear enough. Finally, a voice said, just us. Asterisk. The elevator didn't shake when the voice spoke. It didn't malfunction. It didn't stall. That's what terrified me. Most finally, the voice said again, just us. I stared at the blank panel. The floor number didn't change. The elevator continued moving. Who is this? I asked. My voice sounded smaller than I expected. There was a pause. Then the intercom clicked softly. We don't get many chances to talk, the voice replied. Most people don't ride alone long enough. The elevator slowed, not at a floor. Between them. You stop when other people are here, I said. You act normal. Yes, the voice agreed. They make it difficult to be precise. The word precise made my stomach drop. The doors opened. I wasn't on any floor. I recognized. The hallway was clean, finished, in, but unfamiliar, like a version of the building that had been quietly updated without my knowledge. People bring noise, the voice continued. Expectations, patterns. The elevator doors stayed open, waiting. You notice things, it said. You pay attention when others don't. I just want to go home, I said. The voice softened. So did they. I stepped out, not because I wanted to, because my legs moved on their own. The hallway smelled warm, like dust and electricity. Lights hummed above me. Every apartment door was closed, except one. You don't trap people, I said. You wait. Yes, the voice replied. Waiting is more effective. The open door at the end of the hall revealed a furnished apartment. Lights on. TV, playing softly. Shoes by the door. You let them choose, I said. Another pause. They feel safer that way. I realized then why it never stopped. When people were together, why it waited for empty lobbies, why it favored late hours. It wasn't malfunctioning. It was filtering. Why me? I asked. The voice answered without hesitation. You came back after noticing. I thought of the others, people who stopped riding alone, who adjusted their schedules. Who learned the rules without ever understanding them. They didn't qualify, the voice said gently. The elevator dinged behind me. A reminder, you can leave, it said, or you can stay. What happens if I stay? I asked. The lights dimmed slightly. Nothing immediately. I stepped back into the elevator. The doors closed. Instantly, the panel lit up. Lobby. The ride down was smooth, silent, normal when the doors opened. The lobby looked the same as always. Vending machine humming. Mailboxes lining the wall. I moved out a month later. Different building, different elevator. But now, whenever I ride alone and the elevator hesitates, I don't speak. I don't look at the panel. I don't ask questions, because I know now it isn't breaking, it's deciding.
I noticed him because he was consistent, not strange, not threatening, just consistent. Every night around 11:40 he got on the elevator with me. Same floor, same time, same quiet nod of recognition. He looked normal, early 40s, clean jacket, office badge clipped to his belt like he'd forgotten to take it off. He smelled faintly of soap and something metallic. We never spoke. We didn't need to. The first night I didn't think anything of it when he got off on the wrong floor. People make mistakes. Elevators stop unexpectedly. But the second night it happened again. We rode up together. I pressed 7, he pressed 6. The doors closed. At 4, the elevator slowed. The doors opened. He stepped out calmly, didn't hesitate, didn't look confused. The hallway was dark. Lights half on, no sound. The doors closed behind him. The elevator continued upward. That was odd, but not alarming. The third night I paid attention. Same man, same time, same nod, same stop. Fourth floor, he stepped out again. This time I leaned forward slightly, watching as the doors closed. I could have sworn he smiled. The next morning I checked the building directory. There was no fourth floor listed. I started asking questions, carefully, casually. Does anyone live on 4? I asked a woman from the second floor one evening. She paused, then laughed lightly. No, she said. Why? I keep seeing someone get off there, I replied. Her smile faded just a little. Probably just confused, she said. Some people don't adjust well. That night I waited in the lobby longer than usual. I wanted to see if he would come. 11:40. The elevator arrived. The doors opened. He was already inside. Like he'd been waiting, I stepped in, pressed 7. He pressed 6. The doors closed. The elevator rose. At 4 it slowed. The doors opened. He didn't step out immediately. Instead, he turned toward me. You don't have to follow, he said gently. My stomach dropped. Follow where? I asked. He smiled, the same polite smile he'd always worn. Most people don't, he said. They learn when to stop noticing. I didn't press 4, I said. No, he agreed. You never do. He stepped out. The doors stayed open, longer than usual. I looked at the hallway. This time I noticed things I hadn't before. Shoes by doorways, light leaking from under apartment doors, a TV playing somewhere. It wasn't abandoned. It was occupied. The man stood a few feet from the elevator, waiting, patient. You coming? He asked. My heart pounded. I thought this floor was sealed, I said. It is, he replied. From above, the elevator dinged softly, a warning. If you stay in there, he continued, it forgets you faster. Forget me? I asked. He nodded. That's how most people survive. The doors began to close. I watched him as the gap narrowed. He didn't wave, didn't rush, just stood there calmly like he belonged. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about one thing. He never once looked lost, and the elevator never hesitated when he got off on the wrong floor. After that night, I stopped seeing him in the elevator. Not immediately. At first I thought our schedules had changed, but nights passed, then weeks, and he never appeared. The elevator still stopped on the 4th floor, just not for him, for me. The first time it happened, I was alone. 11:42 p.m., same time as always. I pressed 7. The doors closed. At 4, the elevator slowed. The light turned on. The doors opened. The hallway lights came up slowly, one by one, like the floor was waking. I stayed inside, didn't speak, didn't move. I remembered his words, if you stay in there, it forgets you faster. The doors closed, the elevator continued up, but something had changed. I started noticing him elsewhere, not clearly, not directly. A reflection in the elevator mirror when the doors closed. A silhouette behind the frosted glass near the stairwell, a shadow that moved just a little too slowly. I asked the building manager about him, described him casually. "There's no one by that description listed," the manager said. "Are you sure he lives here?" "Yes," I said, "6th floor." He checked his computer, paused, scrolled. "There hasn't been anyone registered on 6 for years," he said quietly. That night I heard voices on the 4th floor. Laughter, conversation, the sound of plates clinking. It sounded like a dinner party. I went down to the lobby and waited. 11:40. The elevator arrived. The doors opened, empty. I stepped inside, pressed 7. At 4, the doors opened. He was standing there. Closer this time, right at the threshold. "You waited too long," he said calmly. "I didn't follow you," I said. He nodded. "That was your mistake." Behind him, the hallway was full now. People standing in doorways, watching, some familiar, some not. "They don't erase us," he continued. "They just stop counting us." "What do you want?" I asked. He smiled gently. "Nothing," he said. "We already have what we need." The elevator dinged softly. "You noticed," he said. "You listened, you remembered." The doors began to close. He didn't move, didn't rush. "Everyone who ends up here," he added, "starts by watching someone else get off." The doors shut. The elevator rose. The next morning, a new notice appeared in the lobby. "Please confirm your residency status with building management. I moved out within the week." No forwarding address, no explanation. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm riding alone in a different building, the elevator slows. The light for 4 turns on, and I remember, the floor isn't wrong, it's patient. And it's always looking for someone new to step out first. By the time it happened to me, I already knew the rules. I just didn't realize they were preparing me. I had lived in the building long enough to understand its rhythms, which floors were quiet, which neighbors avoided eye contact, which hours the elevator felt different. I followed the unspoken rules like everyone else. I used the stairs after midnight. I didn't comment on unexplained stops. I didn't ask questions when the elevator paused too long. And for a while, that was enough. My floor was the 7th, or at least that's what the button said. Officially, half of the 7th floor had been vacated years ago due to maintenance issues. A few apartments remained occupied, mine included. The far end of the hallway, however, was sealed off behind a temporary wall that had been there so long it no longer looked temporary. No doors, no numbers, just blank drywall and silence. No one ever talked about it. The first time the elevator stopped on my floor without me calling it, I was already in bed. It was late. I checked the time out of habit. 3:12 a.m. I heard the familiar sound of cables and pulleys moving through the shaft. Slow, deliberate, then the soft ding. The elevator doors opened. I waited for footsteps, for voices. For anything that would explain why it had stopped. Nothing came. A minute later, the doors closed. The elevator descended. The next morning, I asked my neighbor, one of the few others still living on 7, if they'd heard it. They avoided my eyes. "Sometimes it checks," they said quietly. "Checks what?" I asked. "That the floor is still here," they replied. After that, it happened more often, always after midnight, always when I was home. The elevator would rise past the 6th floor, slow, and stop at 7. Doors open, silence, doors close. I started noticing changes in the hallway. Lights that stayed on longer than usual, shadows that didn't line up with the fixtures. A faint smell, dust, and something electrical, like overheated wires. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I opened my apartment door while the elevator was still open. The hallway lights were brighter than I'd ever seen them. The temporary wall at the far end was gone. In its place was a long corridor, much longer than the building should allow. Doors lined both sides, every one of them closed. The elevator doors were still open, waiting. I took one step into the hallway. The air felt heavier, charged. Behind me, the elevator dinged softly. Not a warning, an invitation. I heard voices then. Low, muffled, coming from behind the closed doors, people talking, laughing, arguing quietly, living. I realized something that made my chest tighten. These weren't strangers. The voices sounded familiar, like people I'd passed in the lobby, people who used to live here. The elevator doors began to close. I stepped back into my apartment and slammed the door shut, locked it, sat on the floor, heart racing. The elevator stayed on my floor longer than it ever had before. And for the first time, I understood the truth. The elevator didn't stop randomly. It stopped where there was still space. And my floor was running out. After that night, the elevator stopped pretending. It didn't check my floor anymore. It arrived. The first time it stayed, I was awake. Sitting on my couch in the dark, listening. The familiar hum rose through the shaft, slowed, and settled exactly outside my door. Ding. The sound wasn't loud, it was careful. Like it didn't want to startle me. I didn't open the door. I didn't need to. I could see the light spilling through the crack beneath it, brighter than the hallway lights had ever been. The elevator doors remained open. Minutes passed. Then more, I heard movement, not footsteps, shifting, like people adjusting their weight while waiting. Someone cleared their throat. Someone else whispered. A knock came from the other side of my apartment door, soft, polite. "We've been patient," a voice said. I recognized it immediately, the man from the 4th floor. The one who always got off on the wrong level. "There's room now," he continued. I didn't answer. The knock came again, gentler this time. "You don't have to rush," he said. "But the elevator won't leave without you anymore." I stayed there until morning. The light never faded. The sounds never stopped. When daylight finally came, the elevator doors closed. The hallway returned to normal. The temporary wall was back, sealed, perfect. I tried to leave that day, packed what I could, went down the stairs. The lobby was different, smaller, compressed. The elevator doors stood open, waiting. The stairwell door wouldn't open, no matter how hard I pushed. The building manager stood near the mailboxes. I hadn't seen him in weeks. "You should use the elevator," he said calmly. "I'm moving out," I replied. He nodded. "Everyone does," the elevator dinged. Once I stepped inside. The doors closed behind me. The panel lit up. There was no 7 anymore, just a blank space. The elevator didn't move. "Floors don't disappear," the voice from the intercom said gently. "They get reassigned." The doors opened. I wasn't in the lobby. I was back on my floor, but it wasn't mine anymore. The hallway stretched farther than before, doors on both sides, everyone occupied, lights warm, air heavy with voices. People stood outside their apartments watching me, not hostile, not welcoming, expectant. The man from the 4th floor stood closest. "This is where people go," he said, "when the building runs out of explanations." I felt the elevator behind me, still open, still waiting. "For what?" I asked. "For you to stop resisting," he replied. I turned. The elevator interior looked different now, larger, deeper, more doors than it should have. "You noticed too much," he said. "You stayed too long." The elevator dinged again. Final, I stepped inside. The doors closed. The panel lit up. 8, 9, 10 numbers the building never had. As the elevator descended, I understood everything. The elevator doesn't malfunction, it organizes. The floors don't disappear, they fill. And when the building can't hide people anymore, it makes room. Some nights when you're alone in an elevator and it slows for no reason, when the lights dim, when it stops on a floor you don't recognize, that isn't an error. That's the building asking if you're ready to stay.
Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Terramouth.